There are a ton of items in Last Day on Earth. Most of these items have specific uses for base building, for crafting, for weapons modification. However, there are a couple of items that serve little to no purpose. They can be used in some ways, but it's just not worth using them at all. Today I will try to give some functionality to these items, to make them a bit more useful for players, and who knows, maybe Kefir will see this video and they will find my ideas interesting. CAC cards are items that rarely get used in the day-to-day experience of a player. Yes, you need the A card to open Bunker Alpha, but after that, you are basically done. Maybe some of you are still keeping these cards, hoping that the devs will at some point implement the bunkers into the game. But for me, that has a very low chance of happening. Now, CAC cards actually do have one decent use, and that's the ability to recycle them. You get plastic from recycling CAC cards. You could potentially use these cards to level up your recycler in the other category so that you can use empty cans to get aluminium, but that is too much work for minimal reward. Plus, CAC cards are quite rare to find, especially the Charlie, Romeo, Delta and Foxtrot, and the rarest of them all, Zulu. So my idea to make these cards a bit more worth getting is to add the ability to exchange them in Bunker Alpha for coupons. We all know that in the military, soldiers have what we call dog tags. These tags are stamped with the name, rank and serial number of the soldier. This was done to allow a quick and easy way to identify dead or wounded soldiers, and these dog tags would usually get returned to the families of the soldiers. The CAC cards can serve the same purpose in Last Day on Earth. Of course, it is not possible to return them to their families, since all humanity is gone. Instead, we could exchange these cards with a new NPC in Bunker Alpha. Let's say, for example, Alpha and Bravo cards would give 10 green coupons. Charlie, Romeo, Delta and Foxtrot would give 5 yellow coupons. And then the rarest one, Zulu, would give 2 red coupons. These numbers are of course random. The devs would need to adjust everything. I don't think it would be overpowered to have Zulu cards give 2 red coupons, since this card is pretty rare, and as far as I know, it can only be obtained by defeating a couple of bosses, like the big one, the Borealis, and so on. There is also raids, where it is possible to get 20 Zulu cards at once, but that has a very low chance of happening. Overall, I think that it would fit perfectly in Last Day on Earth. Usually, we don't really pay attention to these cards. Most of the time, we just leave them in the corpses of the zombies. But if my idea gets considered, at least they would serve a cool purpose, and also giving players an incentive to kill more zombies and gather these cards. The snorkel mask has been in the game for a while now, and we always wondered if the devs will make this item useful. For now though, it is really just a collectible to store in the chest. The obvious idea for this item is to implement some sort of underwater exploration in Last Day on Earth. That's just asking too much from the devs. I think for sure it would be quite difficult to program a system like that, with underwater physics, underwater enemies and weapons, an oxygen tank, and so on and so forth. I don't see where a snorkel mask could be used other than what I mentioned. Maybe you guys have some ideas, but for me, underwater exploration could be a fresh and unique update in Last Day on Earth. Something we have never seen before. Yes, Kefir would take a huge risk by putting all their effort into this. But I think that you would agree that it would be worth all the time and effort spent. Players would love it. This is how I imagined the island region to be. Exploring underwater locations, finding hidden crates, avoiding the traps, and taking down special underwater enemies with new and unique guns. If, for example, the devs decided to work on this for, let's say, a year, do you think it would be worth the wait? Let me know in the comments what you think on the whole concept of underwater exploration in Last Day on Earth. Gunpowder in real life is mainly used in creating certain type of ammunition and explosive materials, and gunpowder is also highly flammable, so it is a great component that has many functionalities, but when we go to Last Day on Earth, gunpowder seems to be completely useless. Gunpowder in the game definitely has some uses, especially in crafting recipes for the Glock and explosive materials, but they are just too expensive. Plus, it's not really worth crafting weapons in Last Day on Earth. You can clear Bunker Alpha and you get tons of them. For me, to make gunpowder useful in Last Day on Earth, Kefir needs to come up with a system for crafting weapons that is efficient and worth it. For example, we could have a new workbench for crafting weapons: Glocks, M16s, Uzis, AKs, shotguns, VSS, and SCARs. Each of these weapons would have an affordable recipe, even for low-level players, requiring items like gunpowder, of course, factory parts, carbon composite, steel plates, and the new material, Polymer 2. If you didn't know, Polymer 2 is a material used in making Glocks. For us, we'll use it in making all kinds of weapons. Polymer 2 could be a rare item that could be found in locations like Bunker Bravo, the port, or the transport hub. Or it could be crafted. First, the player would need to have simple polymer, using plastic, gun oil, and acid. Then, using polymer, players could use the chemical station to craft the Polymer 2, using polymer, fiberglass, and carbon composite. And then finally, players could use a new weapon crafting workstation to craft the weapons they want, using Polymer 2 gunpowder, steel plates, carbon composite, and factory parts. Of course, this is just a concept of an idea. It needs to be revised and reworked multiple times in order to implement it in Last Day on Earth. I know that it is not easy to add new things in a game and make everything work together. And lastly, one other simple idea I had for gunpowder is the ability to place it on the ground. Basically, I imagine that we could make trails of gunpowder, then using a match, for example, we could set the gunpowder on fire, spreading and killing enemies on its way. What do you think about these ideas? Is it too much? Share your own opinion down below in the comments. Lead in Last Day on Earth is one of the most useless items in the game, but in real life, lead is used in many different ways, and one of the most common one is in lead acid batteries. Right now in Last Day on Earth, the only way to run vehicles like the chopper or the ATV is by using gasoline. Why not add a bit of variety to the game? Basically, I imagine that you will be able to craft these lead acid batteries and use them for vehicles instead of always using gasoline. Players would be able to craft a lead acid battery using the electronics table, requiring lead, sulfur, acid, copper, and plastic. Of course, lead and sulfur are late game items that can only be found in the swamp location. But this is how I imagine lead acid batteries, a feature accessible only for advanced players. In my opinion, once you progress enough through the game, you should be able to have a bit of variety, instead of doing the same old stuff over and over again. Lead is also a very dense material that can be used in the fabrication of explosives. For us in Last Day on Earth, lead could be used to craft mines and C4s. Again, another late game use for advanced players. Lead is really just a very high-end material that is used in advanced fabrications and technologies, so I don't really see a good use for it that could benefit beginners. So if you have any idea, let me know in the comments down below. On the other hand, gold bars is a very common item in Last Day on Earth. However, it doesn't have many uses yet. Gold bars are only used to trade with a dealer. Other than that, it remains useless.
Stupid!
My idea for gold comes from another game I have been playing recently, which is 7 Days to Die. Many of you have heard about this game for sure, but what's important for us is the fact that in 7 Days to Die, players can collect a special currency that can be used in buying items from different shops throughout the game. Now in this game, to get the currency, players can find it in crates and abandoned houses, or they can also sell items like gold or even cash. Why not have a similar concept in Last Day on Earth? By selling gold bars and other valuable resources, we could earn a new currency that is separate from coins, and then we would be able to find shops and traders where we could buy and sell items. Now these shops would have a variety of items for advanced players or beginners, and the items would change every day to add a bit more variety to the shops. I always thought that having a shop in Last Day on Earth would be a big feature for the game. I see the idea of shops in many games. For example, in 7 Days to Die, or even in other games like No Man's Sky, where the universe is completely different. But the main common aspect in these games is the ability to sell items you don't need. And in Last Day on Earth, there are a lot of items we don't really need, like all the items I mentioned: CAC cards, snorkel masks, gold bars, and we can add to that list items like cigarettes, the different colors of paint, football helmets, and many other items that just take up space in our chests. Share your ideas down below in the comments, like and subscribe, and maybe Kefir might see this video and consider my ideas. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.